Let's continue to pray that God would open our minds and renew them by the Holy Spirit. We have been seeing how a slippery slope was given in thinking and in action and in sight and in taste to Eve and to Adam. And in verse 5 of Genesis 3 we read, well, it begins at the end of verse 4, doesn't it? You will not die. Verse 5, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. What is the serpent doing? This is possibly if it's not it's very close to being there, the weapon that the serpent and the devil most use. And it's the weapon of accusation. And here he is accusing God, and Eve and Adam are paying attention. Now they should have settled the nature of God, knowing that they were perfectly made in his image and likeness, and they had nothing to prove, and nothing can challenge that. But the serpent suggests, hey, listen, God put a limit on you, and the reason he put a limit on you is that God's actually jealous. God actually is self-seeking. God actually is out for himself. And he's not really looking after you. Oh, and by the way, he's terribly insecure. So he has not allowed you to share all his knowledge. Now that's the kind of accusation that goes on, even to this day. We need to settle what God is like and live in the faith of that at all times. So Adam and Eve are now hearing these words, and the wording is, God withholds, God's stingy. Now let's look at this again. And you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now there's something very clever in this. You and I are called to be holy. You and I are called to be little Christs. We need, however, to settle something else. You and I are made, as indeed all humanity, and we'll talk more about that next week, in the image and likeness of God. But that does not mean that God is made in our image. That's a problem that so many of us actually live in. We want to make God like us, whereas we've been made by him to be like him. So what's wrong with this suggestion? You'll be like God, knowing good and evil. Surely we're supposed to know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. And the answer to that would be, of course, yes. But it is not our place to decide what is good and evil. God has reserved that because he is perfect. There's the thing, God is perfect in his judgments and in his ways. And he gets to say, and we get to follow out, what is right, what is wrong. And the devil now, through the serpent, is saying to Adam and Eve, listen, usurp the place of God. Take his place. At least enter so fully in that God is no longer God, simply in and of himself. That usurping has come down to us to this very day. Now God has given us a place of trust, but to trust in him who is all good. They should never have listened, and if they hadn't, they would never have acted.